Hello, welcome back, listeners. It's probably been a few weeks. Hopefully, you're still here with us. Otherwise, Neil and I are just talking anyway, and we're okay with that. Welcome back to Baap. I'm Amit, of course, if you may have forgotten from previous episodes.
What's up, everyone? And you as well, Amit. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but yeah, we're back with another episode. So sit back, listen, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna try and enjoy this one too. So
Yeah, we know the last few episodes were heavy. So hopefully, you took some time not only to digest it, but also took some time away from the conversations if they triggered anything for you. And really, we weren't trying to trigger anyone. We were just sharing our experiences and hoping to give a voice to the trauma that I'm sure other people experience, but maybe don't know how to put into words. That
yeah,
said, we have episode 3 today officially, and it's called "I'm Not My Dad, but I'm Trying." And the title of the episode may seem very niche, may seem very specific. And of course, from our viewpoint and our experiences, it is that specific because that's sort of what our experience was. We grew up without our dads, and it quickly turned into a conversation of what would happen if your dad were here and what that would look like. But really, this can be applied to many different facets of life. So whether that's when you had someone influential in your life and you almost looked up to them, like it was either expected of you to become them or you wanted to become them, and in your mind you're just like, there's just no way that I'm ever going to quote unquote live up to that. And there's the aspect of living up to something or someone, but then there's also the aspect of, hey, I'm going to take what you're showing me, what you taught me, and I'm actually going to be different. Like, I don't want to do these one or two, three things that you do, right? So it could be living up to something or living from something, living away from something. So today we're going to start off with just talking through, from my own personal experience. I'm not my dad, but I'm trying. Really, really rings true for me. Neil and I, you and I have talked about
yeah,
this
yeah,
at length.
yeah.
So I'll share with you, the listeners, and weirdly, my light just went on and off. So maybe
That was your
Dad's
dad.
listening too. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
was about to say that might have been for
He's
anyone who
probably just like,
watches
yeah.
this. That's definitely, and anyone who understands weird things happening at the time that they're supposed to. That might have been your dad saying, "What up?"
Yeah, you might have been like, yeah, go ahead, say something. I dare you.
Yeah, yeah,
um, so for me, when I hear this episode title, I'm going to, of course, tie it back to my dad. Anyone who thinks I have daddy issues is extremely accurate.
correct. Yeah, I was about to
Very
say
100% correct.
Jeez.
Quick side story. Neil, you know this story, but I'm going to share it with our listeners because I think it's hilarious and it sums up the relationship I have with my wife. Shout out Nurali. So Nurali and I went on our first date about 3 years ago now, and I remember showing up to the date, and I have, for those, if you could see me in person, if you've ever seen me in person, I have like 5 or 6 tattoos, most, if not all of them, commemorating my dad in some way, shape, or form. So when she saw those and brought them up, I was like, yeah, like, this one's for my dad, this one's for my dad, this one's for my dad. She's like, oh, you got daddy issues. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
yeah, he did. And her face just
Dropped.
dropped. She did not know what to say. She didn't expect me to bring it up so crassly. But she just felt so terrible after that. And I'm convinced she married me because she doesn't know how to recover from that.
Yeah.
Whatever keeps her here, I guess. But even if it's the
You know,
guilt.
usually it's like, not to be sexist or flip it, but usually it's the other way around, most of the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty funny. She stayed with you maybe because of the
Yeah.
daddy issues.
Yeah.
Never know.
Whatever, like I said, whatever keeps her here. But
Yeah, yikes.
it's one of those questions you don't ask, right? You're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
whatever your reasoning is,
Trust
fine.
me,
You said
you don't
yes.
you don't want the answer to it. That's the big thing. You do not want
Probably
to
not.
hear the answer to that.
Probably not. But that was a quick
Just keep on living.
that was a quick story about Nerali and my daddy issues and her just calling me out on it and me putting her in a very awkward spot. And that, folks, is how my wife and I fell in love. um, so going back to the theme of the episode. Yeah, well, hopefully, I'm pretty sure she'll listen to this and she'll be like, dude, what the hell
Well, yeah, that's
is
why
your
I said
problem?
sorry for her. I'm so sorry. I couldn't stop him. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, put me on a mic, give me some time with people to listen,
Yeah,
and this is what you get.
I didn't know this is how we're
That
gonna
being
start.
said, going back to the theme of the episode, I'm not my dad, but I'm trying is a sentence and in a way of life, really, that I have struggled with. So, those of you who maybe are tuning into just this episode and have skipped the previous ones, hour and a half long, wouldn't blame you. Can't promise this one's not going to be that. But I lost my dad when I was 20 years old to cancer. Him and I were really, really close. And for not even for a long time, actually, still to this day, he's my hero. Um, so it was a lot to then unpack thereafter when I lost sort of my North Star. When I was growing up, he was so admired, so loved in the family, and in my mind, I'm just like, okay, that's what I should be. That's what I've seen. That's what I need to be. I need to be admired and loved in my family. He gave his family and the people he cared about his all. Uh, eh, just to give you an idea, my dad was the kind of person who went into Indian stores, and these are very true stories, would run into people who would tell him they don't have a place to stay. They'd be in the car right that very minute. Right after he'd get to know them a little bit, he'd bring them home. He'd give them a place to stay for a little bit, whatever that looked like, 6 months, a month, a year, 2 years. There was no defined time period, but he made sure they got home cooked meals. And it wasn't like it was specific to just Indians or Gujaratis. We've had our fair share of people who've lived with us who've been American, Indian, even African American. But that was just the kind of person he was. And growing up, when you see that, you're seeing someone just give up everything or change their entire way of life to accommodate for someone who has less than them. Right? It doesn't matter that we were struggling or not, because believe you me, we were. That's actually a good point to take away as something I didn't take away from my dad was finances. He was not the best at them. He may have been 6'5", but he should not have been in finance.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he wasn't. So it didn't matter what we were going through. It didn't matter what finances looked like at home. He saw that this person needed a place to stay, and he brought them home. That was dad. So doesn't matter if you're family, doesn't matter if you're a stranger, you became family, and he gave you his all. And growing up, when I saw that, my mom also fed into that. Like, it's not like she was against all of these actions that he was taking. They had fights about it every once in a while because it was a lot on her afterwards, right? Overhead and cooking falls to her at that point. But she fed into it. She was right there with him, alongside him, saying, yeah, whatever anyone needs, especially family. And believe you me, that has created its own complex, which we probably will touch on in future episodes as it pertains to culture, religion, family, relationships, all of that. But you're talking about living up to a man who literally would pick people up off the street, bring them home, give them a house and a place to eat, in an economy that probably wasn't favorable to him, with income that barely made our ends meet. So when dad passed, those were some really big shoes to fill. Not only from just a human being standpoint, quite frankly, but also as a husband, a son, because he left behind these holes in relationships. Right, he was someone's son. He was a brother. He was the middle brother. And if you're talking about someone who would do this for a random stranger that they met in an Indian store or wherever, imagine the amount of things he did for his family, the people he has grown up with and has cared for from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if
It
he's doing that
was
for random people, he's definitely going to be doing that a tenfold for people
for
that he
family.
knows. Right?
Exactly. So when he passed away, mom and I went through, of course, the obvious obstacle that we faced is our finances. I was, still in college, did not have a degree, did not even have the experience like I do now. So we struggled with finances. That's pretty obvious. But a big thing that we struggled with was finding where we belong in society, in family, even with each other. But for the sake of not steering this conversation in 12 different directions, we'll talk about finding our footing in society and within family. And the reason I chose those two, society and family, is because immediately after he passed, we felt very alone. It's obviously not, I don't think anyone could ever take that away. And we kind of touched on that in the last episode too. No one can ever take that feeling away from you, even if they were there every single day. But when I'm looking at mom and the different obstacles that she's facing as a widow and in the Indian community, navigating her time as a widow within the family, specifically within dad's family, she struggled with that. She struggled with her role. She struggled with what she wanted versus what she was receiving from them, and even her own family. But at this time, her own family was in India in 2012 when he passed. So you fast forward a few years as we're trying to just get our our lives together, and whenever my mom had something that hurt her, an interaction with someone that hurt her, she would say to me, "If your dad were here, this would never happen." And that became such a trigger for me over the years. And it still is. I know for a fact it still is. Because what that told me was, or what that made me feel like, this is not on her, but this is on me. What that made me feel like was, hey, I'm working 3 jobs, going to school, providing, surviving, putting food on the table, showing up for you. Because when dad passed, of course, mom became extremely emotionally dependent on me. Right? Anywhere she wanted to go, she didn't want to go alone. She wanted me to be with her because she was afraid of what people were going to say or do to her. Not like she was, like she was at risk physically, but she just didn't feel right anywhere she went without me.
Yeah, she lost her partner. She lost
Yeah.
her partner.
I mean, I mentioned in the last episode, and a few episodes ago, I think, they went to work every single day together.
Right. Yeah. She lost a person that was right next to her.
That was right next to her. She was passenger princess. So now you're talking about someone who has to drive back and forth to work every single day alone. And all she's thinking about during that time period are the memories that she had with him. Right. Anywhere we went, family events, whatever. First of all, she rarely wanted to go. I am convinced, even then I was convinced my mom went through depression.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising at all,
Right,
given just how connected they were, how interwoven they were into each other's lives. So anywhere she went, she wanted me there. And so in the beginning, all I did was comply, right? You're talking about a woman who just lost a man, the love of her life. And I empathize so heavily with her. So in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. But then when I hear that, right, if your dad were here, this wouldn't happen. Immediately, I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough for her to protect her.
Yeah. Here, if you don't mind, if I can ask a question,
Fire away.
Did it feel like you had to be like? Did it kind of? This is going to sound really weird. I don't know if people will understand this in that way.
I think I know exactly what you're about to ask me. Go ahead.
when she said that, or that feeling was there between y'all two, right? Did it ever make you feel like she looked at you like you were him? Yeah. I don't know if everyone's going to understand that part or that meaning, but anyone who has a mom and is around them after they've lost their significant other or their person or partner or whatever, yeah, that what you just mentioned of her telling you that part and you feeling the way you did, that's so, to me, that's very relatable because those shoes are very and it's not their fault, but they will tend to look at you and you will feel it. You will feel like, why are you looking at me like I'm him? I'm your husband, right?
Yeah.
I'm not. I know that sounds really weird. Don't come at me with that. It's just one of those things that, like, as a mom and son kind of navigate after that. It's a little weird, but yeah. Uh,
And
did you feel it? Yeah.
to clarify,
Yeah.
there's nothing for anybody who might take that in the most weirdest way possible.
Right.
There's nothing sexual about this. There's
Right. Right.
nothing
It's just like the feeling. It's that.
exactly.
Yeah. It's like they lost someone that they, I don't want to say depended on, but essentially they were dependent on, right? In
Hmm.
both ways. If, if that was the case, other way, it kind of works the same. But in this case, like when your mom says something like that to you, I'm sure it made you sit there and say, like, feel that, like, wait a minute, I'm not him though. I can't, you're right. I can't be him.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So it's not meant to be weird. It's for anyone out there who, like Neil said, has a mom who lost her partner. But if we're going to get very specific here, we'll narrow it down also to mom who lost her partner within a South Asian community, more specifically in my case, a Gujarati community,
Yeah.
where the dynamic, at least in that generation, is
It's
very
different.
heavily towards paternal side,
Yeah.
right? Dad's the face of the family. He's the head of
Right.
the household. He is the one that the family is judged by,
Yeah.
and for all the good reasons. As soon as anything bad comes up, it's
It's
the
the
mom's
mom.
fault, right?
Right.
The
Exactly.
woman's fault.
Right.
And that in itself could be probably be in its own episode. In fact, we have very similar topics that we're touching on in a future episode, so we'll keep you updated on that. So more to come. Don't worry. That episode in itself could probably be a day long. Um, that being said, you take the pillar of the family away, and all of a sudden, mom doesn't really know what to do. She
Hmm.
was reliant on him for finances. I mean, she signed financial documents that she didn't even know what it said. He said sign, she said where.
Hmm.
And that was it. And so you talking about removing that pillar where that's basically her identity. Being his wife, excuse me, was basically her identity. Being
Yeah.
my mom is her identity.
Right.
So now you take away one of those pillars, and all she's focusing on is just being my mom. She's grieving this extreme void and channeling all of that into being my mom
Hmm.
because she's trying to fill that. So yes, it's definitely not weird. It's also not uncommon in my opinion. I mean, you just got two people right here who are
Right.
experiencing that.
Yeah.
Um, so when I heard that from her, it was very very difficult because it felt like I wasn't doing enough. And similar to her dynamic towards me, I felt like I developed this complex where I needed to protect her. Of course, she's my
Hmm.
mom. I love her. That at a base was already there.
Hmm.
But now you again add in what's happened, and now I want to protect her more. I see her and I'm just like, I don't want anything to ever hurt you again because you are so hurt. Right. She's had her own experiences even while she was married and while dad was here. You add this on. And in my mind, I'm just like, nope, I'm doing everything I possibly can so you never shed a tear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, hearing, and it's been 12 years of hearing that over and over and over again when something tumultuous came up for her emotionally. And she would say, if your dad were here, these people wouldn't do this to me. If your dad were here, this. And a lot of those times, it also prompted me to react emotionally. So whoever was having, as Delesh would put it, our Britlander friend, whoever was having a go at her, I had to go with them.
Mm.
Right. And that was very anxiety provoking for me because I'm not good with confrontation. I'm good with conversation. And over time, that's also like gotten better. It wasn't there 12 years ago, but I certainly at that time was not good at confrontation. So
But
whenever
you
I did
felt,
confront someone,
yeah.
it was just like full on, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm fucking done with you. You're dead to me. Don't ever
Yeah.
fucking call me. Don't ever talk to my mom. But like, that was my approach.
Yeah.
Um,
You felt the need to, like, go into protection mode of that like in that way. That was
exactly.
your way of, like, oh, kind of showing your mom that,
I'm here.
I'm
Don't
here,
worry.
right?
I got you.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
worry. Like you don't.
yeah.
I understand dad's not here, but I
Yeah.
am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ironically enough, something really cool that I, because I think we spent a lot of time talking about some of the negative experiences and occurrences that have come as a result of these experiences. Something really cool. We were driving to my uncle's house. This was last summer, I believe. No, not last summer. A few months ago when my uncle passed away. And she said the same thing in the car. She was telling me some story about something that someone had wronged her. And she was like, if your dad were here, it wouldn't happen. Mind you, it's been 12 years.
I
And
really hope that squeaky toy stays in
it's
our clip. I really hope so. I love Nala for that. It's
Nala
great.
is, I promise I'm not strangling my dog. She found herself a toy and now she's just going to town with it.
uh, that's like
Um,
perfect timing. That was so great.
yeah. Um, yeah, she could be like, if we cussed, she'll be the squeaker.
She's
Like,
she's the censor.
yeah.
She's the
Um,
protector as well.
so as we were driving down to my uncle's house, she said that, and I instantly fell into tears, just burst into tears. And she was like, "Well, what happened? Like, what's going on?" And for the first time in 12 years, I said to her, "Hey, when you say this, it hurts. It really fucking hurts because it makes me feel like I've done nothing." And listen, I don't toot my own horn often, but I know I showed up. I know ever since dad has passed, I know I've shown up. The bad part about that, the ugly side of that, is I've shown up logically. I struggle to show up emotionally for her. And I can get into that, but
I'm,
I
I have
will
some things to say about that. Do you? I have some things to say about that.
say it.
Continue.
No, say
No,
it. Go ahead.
um, it's just funny, and you know this because you know this. No matter how much or what you will do, inevitably, it's never going to be enough
Mm-hmm.
because it's not supposed to be. That's not your
Mm-hmm.
job,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that. I think people out there know that too, right? Inevitably, you will never, ever, ever, ever do that for her. She will say that. She knows that you're doing a lot. You will never, ever, it won't be enough. Just because it's not that you're not doing enough,
Yeah,
it just won't be enough because
I can't.
and that's not and that's just not you. It's like it could be anyone. It could be literally any
No,
single
I.
person except for him, right? So, and
That's
you're right because it's the emotional part
yeah. Well,
that
when
won't
I
be there. It's
say
not your job for that.
it, when I say emotionally, I mean, and this is a really really weird way to put it. I approach her needs and I satisfy her needs
Hmm.
logically, meaning making sure she's got enough money in the bank
Right,
for
right.
her needs, putting a roof over her head, getting her dream car, right? Like these checkbox items that you can write down on paper
Hmm.
and check off. What I struggle with, and it's not just her, it's not just her. I struggle with this in various relationships. I struggle with putting all of my heart out there,
Mm.
probably just to protect myself, right? And whatever other grief that I haven't dealt with. So when you ask me, do you love your mom? Right? It's the answer, of course, is yes. Like there's no
Hmm.
doubt about it. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't love her.
Right.
The difference is that sometimes I struggle to feel it
Mm.
because I'll be honest, I think to a certain degree I she's still here. Dad's not. And I think in my own weird way, I take that for granted and I blame her for it. Not blame her as in like she's the reason dad's not
Yeah,
here. More
that's
so
fair.
just like why couldn't dad be here too?
Mm.
Right? Like you're still here. Not saying that I don't want her here or that I wish she wasn't here. Any of these things.
Hmm.
But I think there's a tiny part of me that still goes, well, dad's not here.
Mm.
Um veered off the original topic, the original
No, yeah, yeah.
story. Um
That's interest. That is so interesting, man. Maybe got got some things to say to that, but we're gonna go back on topic.
Fair
Go
enough.
back.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Going back to my story.
that's just funny. Oh
Uh,
man, I'm not laughing at your pain. Anyone that's watching me, I'm smiling a lot of this because I relate to it. I
yeah,
hope people can understand that. Um, I'm not laughing at your pain. I am laughing because it's so funny how
similar we
um,
are.
similar we are, how similar our lives are, and what we go through and what we kind of navigate is the same. What we have learned is a little different,
Mm,
just because of where we are
of
in
course.
each phase of our
Of course.
essentially each phase of where we are in our relationships and navigating it, right?
Yeah.
But I smile and laugh because I'm sure you do this too with me, and it's eventually something will be there that will help you understand and make you click and all that stuff. And it's just quite funny hearing it back to like the other side when you're like listening to it, just being like, yeah, man, I fucking get it. I fucking absolutely get that. So
There's a reason this dynamic works. There's a reason we started this podcast, right?
yeah,
It comes down to we all have these different experiences. We all take away different things from it. It all looks different, but more often than not can feel the same.
mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Different levels, different
That's
ways of
why I'm
expressing it, different things that we
yeah,
do with it. But at the end of the day, it's all these things that we don't talk about that we are afraid to say,
yeah.
that we're trying to normalize, right?
So
And I
people are
think
gonna
we've beat a dead horse about being real and authentic. I hopefully you guys
yeah.
got an idea of
I mean, people are gonna
just
think I'm an
how.
asshole because I'm just sitting here like if they saw the other camera angle or whatnot, or like they're hearing me laugh at you. I'm like, dude, I hope just to state the facts. No, not laughing at him, or I'm not, laughing at his pain at all.
Let's
It's
be
just
clear.
goofy.
I am no victim here, at least not in this relationship.
Neither of us are. That's why we can do this. Yeah,
Exactly. If
that's why we can
anything,
do
I
this.
should be mad at my wife for making dad jokes, but that's fine. Dad jokes. Um,
You're the one with daddy issues. You made that
yeah,
first and foremost.
I did. I did. I apparently lead
You,
with that. So
yeah, I was
like,
about to say you opened that threshold when you first started
yeah,
dating her.
yeah.
So not her
Um,
fault.
getting back on track with our conversation and finishing up that story that apparently seems very very long now. But when I
Nah, it's not
expressed
long.
to my mom that that hurts, that has such a profound effect on me, it was so surprising because her reaction was not what I expected. I expected her to be like, yeah, well, I don't mean to hurt you, but like the reality is he's not here, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
That's what I expected out of her. And that's what I mean, anybody would think that that's a natural response. And her reaction to that was, I'm sorry, never meant to make you feel like that. And that when I say that, it is not a knock or a gap that you're not fulfilling, but more so me just acknowledging a gap that I'm feeling and just
Shout
talking
out
about it.
moms.
For real.
Shout out moms.
For
Wow.
real.
Good on her.
She didn't say that verbatim, but
Wasn't expecting. You just got to throw in still a little bit of Gujarati in there
yeah,
and
yeah,
some,
yeah. Of course, of course.
flavor. But shout out moms
Yeah,
for still apologizing for that,
that would
understanding it.
apparently my headphones just want to keep falling, but yeah, that is not as Nala has the zoomies and she's just running back and forth. Okay, that's fine. All right then, my dog's on crack. Um,
We're just having a joyous episode here.
it's a very active episode, very
It's a
very
very
stimulus
active
filled
episode. Your dad's been
episode.
here.
Yeah,
Nala's just doing things. Like, it's
yeah.
great. It's great.
I mean, again, authentic and real,
I hope
right?
people view this one so they can see all this stuff.
Yeah, well, like Nala, and now she's just trying to get into shit. Oh my god. In any case, the point being that for her to go out and apologize for something that truly wasn't her trauma or insecurity, it was mine.
Right.
For her to then simply just put out there that, hey, all I'm doing is just putting a voice to my own pain. Right? All she's doing is just putting it out there. Like, hey, I feel this gap. I can't be
Right.
mad at her for feeling it. I think for a while I was mad at her for even feeling it. I was just like, why are you saying that? Like, He's not here. Get
And you
over
are.
it. Like let's figure out what that looks like without him. Like
Mm.
why do you continuously put yourself in this position? Just move on from it. Like accept that he's not here and figure out what you need to do to protect yourself. If that means that that relationship that you're feeling all this from doesn't give you joy, move on from it. Get away from it. Obviously not something that sits well with that generation because they're, especially when it comes to family, because they're very much about, doesn't matter, it's family, you accept it, you move on, you put it down, whatever you need to do, but you do not ever cut
Yeah,
off family.
they are much different than we are.
Very much so. Probably, and honestly, we probably are as extremely on the other side because they were so extremely on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But for her to just say, all I'm doing is putting a voice to my hurt, really alleviated what that then was for me. It quickly became, it changed from a trigger to just me saying, all right, she's voicing herself. She's talking about her feelings. And that's totally okay. So I'm not my dad, but I'm trying was very, very triggering for me up until a few months ago. And I think she'll say it every once in a while and it still hits, but not the way it did before. It didn't send me down the same spiraling cycle that it used to.
Mm.
Um, so that's one of the points that has stuck with me, that statement means to me, to live up to a man who gave up everything for family and for the people he cared about. And that has played a direct role and a direct factor into how I treat my relationships. Because I will give all of my relationships my all, irrespective of what they look like. The fault that I have in that is it also creates expectations for me, and also creates, you and I chatted about this, last week even, right? It creates all of these different, almost romanticized
Viewpoints, yeah.
relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I start wanting and needing from other people. There's a factor of me needing to love myself more, something that you brought to my attention that has really resonated with me. There's a factor of defining, again, something you brought up. So for those of you who may think that because I speak longer or speak more sometimes, Neil's got all the gold nuggets. I'm just here to support that. But
No.
there's the factor of defining everyone's purpose in my life, or not even defining, being open to what that purpose is and being okay with that itself just being the purpose. We don't need to stretch that purpose out more than it needs to be. And it's been very, very difficult for me in the 12 years since dad has passed, in being an only child, in trying so very, very hard in every single relationship that I have to basically just give all of this love that I have sitting with me constantly. It's been really, really hard not to then expect something in return. Expect people to show up even partially for me in the way that I show up for them.
So that's the difference between you and your dad,
Correct.
essentially, right?
Correct. That is something I was not able to take from him.
Mm.
I don't know how he did that. I, to this
Yeah.
day, cannot understand it from a human psychology standpoint. It makes no sense. He truly was an anomaly in that space because
or he was just him.
yeah.
He was just him, right?
And I'm almost like annoyed that he could do it because it then shows me that, like, hey, it's possible. It's just really fucking difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I didn't know him, maybe at least I could have gotten away with, oh, well, no one can do it. No, he fucking did it. God, that annoys me sometimes. When they say like the shoes are too big to fill, that's him. That's him. Um, our family, of course, between my mom and I,
Mm-hmm.
but extended family even, has not looked the same since he passed away. There's a lot that would be remained to. Apparently, English is difficult too. There's a lot that to unpack there, and a lot that happened that probably led to some of the distance that we experience with our family now. but it's really, really hard not to notice the fact that it happened right after he passed.
Mm,
And I think there was a reason for that. You need someone who's, I don't want to use the word need. I take
right.
that back.
He's the glue guy. It seemed like
He's the glue
he
guy.
was. He's the not to make it so like very simplified, but he
It
it
is though.
did definitely seemed like he was the the glue that kept everything to kind of working. Which that makes sense. Why it feels so distant, essentially now, right?
But you know what? This is a big into what I didn't take away. Yes, he was the glue guy. The problem with that was that he was the glue guy. And what that
Hmm.
means is a lot of what he wanted, a lot of what he deserved, he didn't get. As a
Hmm.
result, by extension, we didn't get.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna even touch on the deserved. I think that's subjective and it's not necessarily for me to decide. But a lot of what we wanted, what we could have had, we didn't because he always put others in front of him.
Hmm.
Because he would let people walk all over him to a certain degree, quote unquote walk all over him. As in, it's not like he wasn't aware of what people were doing. He just didn't care to say anything because it was family or it was someone he cared about.
His nature was not to do that
Yeah. His
in and of
nature
itself.
was, okay, you need this. I
Yeah,
need it
I'm gonna
too,
give it. I'm
but
gonna
I'm giving
figure
it
it
to
out.
you.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna figure out how. If I don't, whatever, I won't take it. I'll just give it. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
that's fair.
Um, and for the longest time, because that's what I saw, that's what my mom was, that's what my dad is. Excuse me,
Mm,
other way around. That's what my dad was, what my mom is. Um, I didn't know how to ask for what I need. I didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel like I
mm,
deserved it or
mm,
that I should be asking for it. So it's taken me 30, well, 32 now, 32 years to finally tell myself it is okay for me to ask for something from a relationship. And it's also okay that if I don't get that, it's okay for me to keep distance from that relationship or to not give more of myself to that relationship. And it's felt wrong, man. I'll be honest. When I choose myself in those situations, it feels wrong to this day.
mm.
And that's something that I took away from dad that I'm trying to change. Um, I'm not my dad, but I'm trying for me. What does that look like for you? What does that
Man, that
mean
was
to
that
you
was
when you hear
great.
that?
That was great. So thank you for sharing that part. Also, I just want to start off by saying shout out, happy belated birthday, because we did not record the last episode was not recorded after your birthday. It was recorded prior, so that's why it was not said then. But now you are actually officially 32, going back to what we were saying 2 weeks ago. So happy birthday. I
Appreciate
know
it. Thank you.
I
Thank
said it
you.
to you in person, but everyone needs to hear that and say it. So leave a comment. um,
Three
no,
people that are listening.
thank you for saying that and sharing all that stuff too as well. Yeah, funny enough that you say big enough shoes not to fill, all that stuff, right? Um, which you kind of feel it anyways, whether you need to fill those, but your shoe size is so totally different than Asul's, and the same thing, your name is not his, and all the good stuff, right? Um, and that's kind of what we both are navigating in our lives, is how we get to do our own life, how we get to have our own experience with everything.
Hmm.
My story is a little bit different than yours, obviously, with how you viewed your dad. For me, it wasn't uh, so much to say that I wanted to be in his shoes at all. I was completely opposite, actually. Now, I did have influential figures in my life, who, and my dad, it, influential in the sense of they have left me with stuff
Hmm.
that I carry forward. And my dad was one of them, but he wasn't the only one that I kind of grabbed things from. More so, I did not want to fill his shoes. I did everything in my power to quote unquote not be like my dad. And the
Mm.
funniest part is what I'm realizing is the old adage of the apple doesn't fall far from the tree is so very true, whether you want it to be or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's that I'm learning that it's okay that I have gotten some traits from him and which traits I want to actually keep, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And that goes across board. I've mentioned it before of like, yeah, I've taken some of the bad things with my dad and his anger. I saw it all the time and did not realize it until I was 35 that that's a big problem for me. I just thought, hey, I'm doing it totally different than he is. I'm not, grumpy or angry all the time. And lo and behold, when I do get angry, it's a very quick burst of what's my feeling is and letting it go, but that doesn't always mean it's the best thing, and that doesn't mean that it's the only way. I'm
Mm.
learning that part,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like community and all that stuff, my dad was kind of similar to your dad. He was very big in, like, very big as in like he was very social. I learned that part. I'm glad I did, because growing up I got to make a lot of friends due to him.
Mm.
He just, he had a lot of friends in the areas that we lived and made a lot of friends pretty quickly. Drinking buddies, I would say, more so than anything. Drinking buddies and chicken buddies. So, and they all had kids. So we kind of grew up around people all the time. And um, he was very, very sociable with his friends. It wasn't like he was just that guy. Everyone
Yeah.
kind of, when you hit him up, he hit people up. Like, it was just a thing. So learned a few things like that from him. Uh, I mentioned before, health was not one of those that I inherited from him. Thank God. I did not take that from him as a young kid. The other couple of people that I've kind of had an impact on my life were my kaka, who also passed away, um, and my dada, who's also passed away. So his brother and his dad.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, my dada was a big impact on the health part, whereas my dad was not. My dad and him both dealt with diabetes, but growing up, it looked very, very differently.
Right.
One man would inject himself and still continue to eat like shit, drink like shit, and still be stressed out about things that he shouldn't be stressed out about. The other guy
What,
ate
what was your
only
dada?
was my dada. He was the quintessential. He lived till 93, and he
Wow.
lived probably like 30 to 30 years, I think, around 30ish years with diabetes. Um, and so like he was very, as soon as he got diagnosed and told that he had diabetes, like, this man was very on point with what he needed to eat, controlling himself to the extent, exercising. This man would walk for 13 miles, 15 miles a day, and he would, like, nothing. He would go into the garden and garden for another 2, 3 hours or build stuff. And that was like, I saw my dad handle it one way, and I saw this man, and I looked both ways, and I said, I'm going to go this way.
Right.
So like
Right.
I kind of got some traits from him. So filling my dad's shoes was, in a different way, a role that was not meant for me. And I've learned that more and more. The thing I'm learning that changed that is where I am nowadays. Is I'm now in middle age where I have a role as a son, just like he did. I have a role as a husband, just like he did. What looks different is what I choose to look different from, and that is taking care of myself a little differently,
Right.
um, health wise, and also mental health wise, where he did not. They didn't have any added notions for that. He was just the way that he was. So, uh, and the other added factor of the influence that I gained was from my kaka, which he was also very, kaka means uncle, by the way, for all the American listeners out there. But Um, he was very sociable. He got me at a young age to be involved because he did this with my cousin Jay, and
Mhm.
like that's his son.
Mhm.
He got us involved in anything and everything. If it
Mm.
was like Boy Scouts, if it was soccer, like he made sure go do it. You know, he
Right,
was the
right.
guy who was like, "Look, you got to do this, go do this," and he would show up himself, right? Whereas my dad was not quite that guy. He was I need to, in his own mind, it was like I need to just provide for my family, come home, eat dinner, do that again, and like be sociable with my friends, and then that's pretty much where the buck stops, right? It wasn't like, oh, I need to be involved in how to be a husband. It wasn't how to be involved in how to be a dad. And again, I stated this before that I understand it a lot differently for myself now that he probably didn't have the best viewpoint of it. Like he himself didn't have the best viewpoint.
Mm.
So you take it with a grain of salt of like, sure, he could have done better. I'm sure he knows that, but he didn't get taught that. So it was a little different. Um, that's funny because I would have asked him the question too. Like this question of like, what does it mean for you, or like, what's your traits that you feel like you've gotten and kind of evolved from, right? Um, yeah. So like those habits of what I took from my uncle of just trying to be more involved in things, whether I like it or not, just to try it. Worst
Mhm.
case scenario
Mhm.
is to try it, right? From my dada, it was take care of yourself because it could lead like your life does not have to be as minuscule just because of something. It doesn't have to be shortened because someone tells you that that's the case, right? For my dad, it was, hey, like live to the beat of your own drum, kind of do it your own way and figure it out, right? And it's never going to look pretty. It's never going to look what you think it might because you just kind of have to go with the flow. The biggest thing I took from my dad, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead. Finish up.
Oh, biggest thing I think I took from my dad, like I inherited it myself, which I have a really hard time believing this for myself. Um, and it's and I thought about it after he passed away because I was always too busy looking at the guy and not the things. And when someone leaves
Mhm.
you, you kind of look more at the things. Um, and it was his resiliency.
Mm.
As much as I think of everyone else giving me stuff, I think the biggest thing that I gained from him, as well as, kind of figuring it out on my own, not making those mistakes and whatnot, but his resiliency. His resiliency was so like the man. If I just think about it, like if I was in his shoes, I don't know if I could have handled myself any differently, and probably worse. Like he had a family, he had to take care of them, no matter how much like life beat down on this man, he just like as much as he may have not wanted to show up, and that's probably what contributed also to like how he was and his like way of being. Um, he kept still showing up, whether he wanted to or not. He just kept going. Like he reminded me after he passed. There was a day where I was just sitting around and just whatever in my own head or my own thoughts, and he reminded me of a boxer in a way that like gets punched, gets knocked down, and still puts his fist down, pumps himself back up, gets beat again, and keeps going. Like he just kept going until he obviously couldn't. And I said that in the last episode of where like you looked at him and he was just like he's telling you like I'm tapping out. It's
Right,
done,
right.
right? Um, but his resiliency was one of a kind. Like you could easily, as much as I say like, oh, he, didn't take care of himself, like he still lived to in his mid to late 60s
Mm.
with diabetes, with having a family, with having family problems, with stressors that you don't even know about, with all these things. And he just kept coming back for more apparently until it was the time where he couldn't, right? And I mean, he's gone through He had an infection in his leg where he had to get a skin graft. He's been in the hospital more times than I've ever seen anyone else in the hospital, at least in my own vicinity or circle
Mm-hmm.
personally. Um, so like, yeah, no matter you would think that he would like. I actually thought about this one time when I was when I was younger, and this is a little psychotic, so I apologize. But I honestly thought that the man was going to die way earlier than he did
Mm.
because of how many times I've seen him like in a place where I'm just like, dude, you're like, how are you still going? You know, like the man had a stroke. The man had an infection on his leg. The man could have tapped out like 30 times. He was in a coma that probably shouldn't, like, I shouldn't have even been born because he was in a coma and pretty much dead beforehand. And he still, again, kept coming back and kept coming back. And I think on my worst days, I really, really tap into that part of him. I
Mm.
tap into that part of like, man, I just don't want to do this anymore. And there's something else that says, you got to keep going. And
Right.
I think that's like, it's that part. Again, there's certain things that you, I hate that I got anger, but I love that I got resiliency.
Right. Right.
If there's any person that I got resiliency from, I would have to say him. For as much shit that he's gone through, it's like, it's that. Um, so I've seen I, I can't I can't be in the same spots as him, but the things I've inherited from him, I will take now for the rest of my life or for however long that may be, right?
Right. Right.
Same with my kaka, same with my dada. Like easily take those things and walk through it. I'm unlearning those traits that I don't want from them, how they were, breaking that bonds of can't do this, be strict in this. Like you don't have to do it that exact same way. You find your own way about it.
Right.
Um, but in the other things, like yeah, those traits that I've inherited, I'll take a million times over. Now, when we go into roles, I talked about roles of being a son, now a husband, and you know maybe one day a father, who knows, but at least a son and a husband. uh, those roles, again, I never looked at him as the shoes I need to fill. When it came to my mom, just like you said, it was one of those things of like, you know, he's not there. I'm like, yeah, but I'm here.
Right.
You know, I got you. Don't worry about what family says, what anybody, you know, comes at. I got you. And the same thing I laughed at you for, it's the same feeling that I had at some point. It was like, I realized it for myself a couple of years ago of just like, and I looked at her and told her this same thing. I'm like, I'm not dad. And I had to say that, not just for her, but for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not dad. You got to realize like, I'm me. So I got to live. I still have 30, 60 years to live, right? I'm not your companion, your person that you can do that with. I'm just your son who's trying to live his own independent life now.
Right.
The hard part is breaking that. You want to be there for your mom, to protect her, to do those things, because that's still a role and a responsibility, but it is not. What I'm learning in my own self, in my own skin, is that it's not my job. It's not like she has to get it herself, right? She has
Mm-hmm.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks to say that, but it is part of her life. It's the same thing that would happen in my life if I'm gone or my wife's gone, if RJ's gone, right? Like I have to pick up the pieces and still move forward in my own way. I can't look at, if we had a child, I can't look at them and be like, well, now you gotta, you know, I'm learning that part, not to say it so meanly. I'm learning to kind of balance out, which I didn't do before. It was, my thought process was like yours. I have to be there. I have to just, she needs me for this. She needs me for, I have to do that. I have to. Dad left it for me to do. I have to, right?
Right.
Those were, it's not, then you don't take on the role of son, you take on the role of is weird. Again, not trying to make this weird, but you
Yeah.
take on the role of the companion. You're like, oh
Right. Right.
God, like what is she thinking? What is she? And I still catch myself doing that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
there's a point where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not responsible for that
Yep.
anymore. That's not my job.
Yep.
My job is to, hey mom, like, here's we're doing this. I'm gonna go do this, and that's kind of how your job is to live your own life and still be there in a way that's like, hey, I can still hang out with my mom. I can still have dinner with her, all that stuff. But it's not an all the time a need to do basis, because that's not my role. That's not my
Right.
responsibility.
Right.
Those shoes, when we mentioned this episode, first thought that came to my mind was a pair of actual shoes, and you're just looking at them. And the funniest part is I actually had an old pair of my dad's shoes. Just,
Mm.
you know how you like can't throw out everything, you kind of want to keep some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I had a pair of his old, like, he had like these black old man shoes. That's what I used to call them. It was like, Velcro and all that shit. So I kept them, and I always looked at them. And it was kind of funny because you don't know this either, but I kept them and I always looked at them. I don't have them anymore, but
Mm.
um, I always used to look at them and be like, man, his feet were too small, so I couldn't even fit in his shoes anyways because I was two sizes bigger. Regardless, I would have ripped right through them, and I think that's meant to happen. I'm supposed to be better,
Metaphorically, even.
yeah, metaphorically, and you're supposed to learn and try and hopefully be better than your predecessor, right? My predecessor was my dad, so um, yeah, I looked at them and I was just like, man, like there they are, and for as much for his feet being in there, for him being in there, walking those things, those were meant for him, solely meant for him.
Mm.
Being the
Mm-hmm.
husband, being that, those were solely meant for him and his experience in this planet, right? Being my mom's husband was solely meant for him. I can't do any of it. That's why I was telling you that earlier. It's like there is no way in hell I would even remotely think of wanting to put those shoes on, because it's not for me. It's for him. He wore them how he wore them. It's never for me. And I'm glad, because if they were, then I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'd be in a whole different area in space, right? But if I don't get a chance to do it my own way or my own self, I can take some things and learn some things, but I can't do it his way. And I'm really glad that I learned that to me stuck very well, that I got a chance to keep those and I had no idea why I was keeping them, just to keep them. And then like there were days where I just look at them and I'm like, man, he had tiny ass feet, and I'm just sitting there like laughing at him. I was like, dude, this man's 5'3", so I'd be short as fuck. I'm not 5'3", by the way. People that know me, I am 5'9", so I'm glad I'm not 5'3", and I'm glad I don't have like a size. I think his shoe size was 8, 8 or 9, something like that. So I have a size 11. So there's no way like I could even remotely fit into it. So, but I was looking at those shoes. I looked at them periodically, and I was just like, man, people do say that there's big shoes to fill, and it was funny to me, and it dawned on me at that point that like I don't have to fill them, and I'm glad I don't, because why would I, right? Then I wouldn't be me. I would be someone else, and then why am I here? Why did he create me?
Right.
Why was I
Right.
created? What was my purpose to be here? It wasn't to fill his shoes. It was to fill my own, and sure, take some stuff and inevitably break some stuff along the way. Right.
I,
So,
I think that last part you said is super important. And you alluded to it when you first started talking too, where our stories or our takeaways and in many ways are similar, but in other ways are very different.
mhm,
And I think the point of all of this is take what works for you. Keep in
absolutely.
mind that it's you are your own person.
Absolutely.
You don't need to be anyone, any one
No.
person, like anyone, or for anyone, or fill those shoes. But then also don't be afraid to break what doesn't work.
And don't be afraid to try to fill those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still a I can't find the word, but there's still a nuance in a experience in trying to do that. You know, it's not inherently bad to do that, because even in and of itself, you're still trying to be you doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the I mean, for anyone that likes sports or whatnot, but it's the old, like, Kobe Bryant trying to be Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
It'll inevitably be there, and it's okay to do it, because you can still try, and you never know if you can do it better, right?
Right.
You can still try and fill those shoes, and maybe you accomplish it doing it better. So there is a dual way of looking at it. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily have to fill those shoes, but even if you do, you can still do it differently and better, right? And you're still trying to fill those shoes inevitably.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes complete sense. I also think that as it pertains to you also said this in the beginning, which I thought was really, really cool. Influencers. And no, I'm not talking about social media influencers. That's
Yeah.
let's not even touch on that. Though I guess in our own little way we're kind of that. I don't
No,
know.
no,
I
I'm never gonna call myself that. I'm
uh,
sorry. I refuse to call myself that. Not not knocking it, but I just can't
it's
be
not for you.
considered
I
that.
get that.
Yeah, I can't. I'm just
In
here trying to
influencers in your
trying to live.
life look
Yeah.
different, sound different, are different,
Hmm.
right? While this episode was centric to some of the experiences that from the fallout of losing our dads, it really does come down to the people that you trust the most in your life, and that also changes over time, right? So like a big thing for me was after dad passed away, I looked up to my cousin Jintanbei. He became a huge influence for me, and I think that it's really important to understand that different people can come into your life for different reasons with different impacts. You take everything you possibly can from them. You can take things you don't have to, right? So that really is the crux of what we wanted to touch on of influence, taking something from it, breaking what doesn't work, but then finding the stride of your own person. And this actually concludes episode 3. And we're going to be, I'm just going to tell you really quickly about episode 4 because it's very exciting. We're going to be having a guest on episode 4.
Yeah,
And
can't wait.
yeah, and it's someone that we're both familiar with. You maybe more than me, obviously, but
Yeah, I can't wait. It's my
uh,
wife. She
it's
just doesn't
Neil's
know
wife.
it yet.
Yeah. So if she's listening to this before you talk to her, I guess this is how she finds out. But
Yeah, I think that would be a cool way of doing it.
let's do that.
Surprise, honey.
It also tell us if she's listening or not. So there you go.
She's listening. She gave me a hug yesterday about episode 2, part 2, which is
Aw.
hilarious to me. So
Yeah, I remember when my part came out, she texted me. All she said was "I love you," and I was like, "Okay, hi."
hi.
Well, episode 4 is crying in the shower, smiling at dinner, and we're going to talk through the things that we couldn't talk to everyone else about, whether that was expectations, trauma, hurt, grief, whatever that was, because as soon as we left our sanctity, our safe space, we had to put on a show. We had to smile and we had to show everyone we were okay because that was the expectation, or there was just no real way to feel safe outside of certain places. So, episode 4 will be crying in the shower, smiling at dinner. Hope you tune in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Bye, guys.